Welcome, everyone, to Resiliency Within. I'm your host, Elaine Miller Karras. I also want to let you know that we're live streaming on Facebook at Resiliency Within if you want to see what we all look like. So I am so excited because this is an encore. My guests today are Roselle and Joelle Casteix from SpotTheLine, and they are here to talk about a brand new free app that can identify, prevent, and de-escalate sexual harassment. We talked about it a number of months ago, but it has actually been launched on April 1st. Is that right? Is that when it was launched? All right. And they are here to talk about what's happening now that it's launched. And those of you that didn't hear that show are going to hear it now, and the exciting work that these two women have done in the world. But let me tell you a little bit about each one of them. And you can see a longer bio on our Voice America page. So let me say a little bit about Lauren. I've known her for a number of years, and she, through her company Esteem, she has led a dynamic team of instructors and providing well over 1,000 trainings in sexual harassment and assault prevention. And I can't even imagine, Lauren, how many people that ends up being.
Well, we tried to figure it out, and we're at about 35,000.
35,000. It's just amazing. So she has helped individuals learn how to protect themselves. And she is the co-founder of SpotTheLine. And SpotTheLine is a tech startup company, and I'm going to let them tell you what exactly it is. So Joelle Casteix is a leading global expert, author, keynote speaker for survivors of child sexual assault and institutional cover-up. She is the chief content officer of SpotTheLine, and she has best-selling publications, including The Well-Armored Child, A Parent's Guide to Preventing Child Sexual Abuse, The Compassionate Response, How to Help and Empower the Adult Victim of Child Sexual Abuse, and The Power of Responsibility, that is based on her, I love this, wildly successful TEDx talk that people can still listen to that, right? TEDx is always out there, and you can listen to your talk.
Oh yeah, it's all, you can listen or stream it on YouTube.
All right, so look at all the different ways that we have to access our guest today. But let me just say a little bit, sexual harassment issues can be intimidating to address, jarring to report, and confusing to identify whether it's illegal or just creepy. With custom action steps and empowerment tools to help the user move forward with confidence, I SpotTheLine sexual harassment meter. I want to say it again, sexual harassment meter, because you're all going to know in just a little bit how to get this free app on your phone, is groundbreaking tool to help victims proceed beyond uncomfortable, confusing, and sometimes illegal situations with courage and support. I love this. So you say it's a power in your pocket. I just love that you talk about it that way. And, I was thinking about too, when I was preparing for the show, I used to work at a large county hospital, and I used to work with the interns. And I remember one situation in particular, there was what I would say for sure was a senior, a resident who was very much sexually harassing some of the younger female interns. And I remember one of them coming to talk with me, and she was confused about whether that's what it really was. She goes, well, sometimes people pat you and it's like, hey there, how are you? But you could see just even with the question that there was uncertainty. And then what ended up happening is about 3 or 4 came to me when they found out the one had come. And then they all talked to me about it. And oh my goodness, it was clear that this person was sexually harassing them. But these were like medical doctors, very competent. They could do surgeries, they could, be leaders. But when it came to this subject, they were not certain and they were afraid. And so the fact that you've created this to me is so exciting, to think that we have something in our pocket if we're uncertain that we can turn to. So with saying that, I want to pause for a second and just see if there's anything on either of your minds right now as we're getting started that either of you want to say before we get into some other questions about your relationship and how this all got started.
I'm good. My poor husband has to hear the worst of it, so I'm not going to vent it here.
Thank goodness for those people in our lives that we get to vent to, right?
Yes,
yes. That's true. I mean, I think we're all thinking about the people in Ukraine.
Yes.
That's definitely been on my mind. And even before, we were talking about the threat of sexual assault that's involved in war as a war crime. And so finding ways to reach people before they're in those situations, even not just war, but any
in everyday situations. And I think
Exactly.
that's right. Many of people that are listening know that we've been doing a project through the Trauma Resource Institute about Ukraine. And that issue has come up about the things that people do to terrorize people are sexual assaults of men and women and people that don't identify in a non-binary way, but sadly also towards children.
Yes.
And so what I think this is a very important topic right now. So if people are uncertain, they will have a better guide to help them. But let me just talk about, go ahead. Did you have something?
I was going to say that, we often get in society, people talking about rape being a crime of sex and a crime of passion and a crime driven by the sexual desires. But when we see these war crimes, it really tells us that rape is a crime of power, and it is a crime of terrorism, and it is a crime of complete domination. And so that, I think it's an interesting moment for all of, anyone who ever had questions about that. It's like, no, if this were not a crime of power, it would not be a war crime. And everyone needs to understand how amazingly traumatizing and terrorizing these kinds of sex crimes are rape is during war.
And I think the other thing that I've been thinking a lot about, I live in a college town. Well, Lauren and I live in a college town. And, I often hear about the date rapes that happen amongst college students. And these are very fine colleges that are in our community. And sometimes people think if it was a date rape, there was somehow the person who was raped was asking for something and they were putting themselves in a sexual position, not realizing what you're saying, Joelle, is about the issues of power and terror that come in any situation when someone is assaulting someone physically.
Right.
So,
I mean, if we go to, we really think about it, and I share this with my students all the time, rape is about power and control. And the perpetrator needs two things in order to be successful. They need to have privacy and control, right? So if we can get to people, again, educating them about what's okay and what's not okay, and what's flirtation versus harassment versus assault, I think that's where the change happens. And so it has to happen with young people.
And I think that we get so many different messages about sexuality and about consent or not consent. And sometimes we don't get any information at all about any of it. So
well,
then
right.
what do we do? I mean, all I can remember my mom, she was kind of a character. She told me that there was something in between the legs of young men that I should stay away from. I was mortified. That was my sex talk. So, and I mean, I can just remember, I can seem to still think about it now and going, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said that. Right. So, hopefully we're getting better than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, sex education is a very dicey subject, right? People shy away from it. And some friend of mine was telling me about a book she was recently reading. I don't have it off the top of my head right now, but the authors were talking about the thing you were talking about with college assaults. And they said, here we live in this world where all we do is tell the students like the bad thing that can happen to them, don't get raped, don't rape anybody, but there's no education about
how.
All the wonderful things about sex and sexuality. So it's like they use the analogy of it's like, for driver's ed, you do all this practice before you get a license, right? But it would be like saying, okay, I'm going to just have you watch a bunch of these videos of cars crashing. And then
and that's it, right? It doesn't
go
but
get
there
your
seems
license.
to be something when it comes
that.
Well, and there seems to be something different in terms, I guess, maybe all the kind of moral judgments that have to do with our sexuality. But let me kind of get back to, I'm
Sure.
really curious about when we talk about the app and just even talk about SpotTheLine. What is SpotTheLine and what's its mission?
Lauren, why don't you take this one?
Okay, well, as you said, we're a new tech startup, and our mission is really to eradicate all forms of sexual violence, whether it's sexual harassment, sexual assault, child sexual abuse. We want to prevent it from happening. We want to give people intervention tools, being able to identify it. I mean, that is what you were talking about earlier, is sometimes people don't even know for sure what happened to them is even harassment. So this tool that we've created called the Sexual Harassment Meter, which is an app, so that's the power in your pocket because it's in your phone, right? Is really designed to take take a person through their situation, asking them a series of questions about what's happened to them that they're concerned about. And through the algorithm and the points, the way it's, it's adding up and scoring, you'll get an outcome, and it'll let you know, did that cross the line into, probably legal sexual harassment, or is it hovering close, or is it just kind of creepy, or is it actually sexual assault? I mean, it can go either way on that spectrum. So what that does, I think, for people is it gives that kind of subjective answer, right? I'm not
Yes.
sorry, objective answer. So it's not just about their own subjectivity, and it gives them some tools and action steps to take to move forward, to say, okay, now that this is where you are in this situation, here's what you can do moving forward to either eradicate it or address it in some way or report it or whatever needs to happen. It's giving people choices and saying and validating, yes, this is a problem. Even if it's not legal sexual harassment, it's still a problem, because you shouldn't be treated that way in the workplace, right? You shouldn't be uncomfortable. You shouldn't have to wonder whether your boss, that pat was, that they pat everybody on the shoulder or the lower back or wherever they touch them, was that appropriate or not? If it's happening multiple times and you're feeling uncomfortable, and you've sort of kind of let them know, even with nonverbal body language, that you're uncomfortable, and they're still doing it, there's probably a problem there, and let's figure out how we can address it.
Well, and I
So-
think that
go
it's,
ahead.
I'm sorry, I cut
No,
you
go,
off
no, go ahead,
again.
Joelle, please. I want to hear you.
I think that it's important also to note, when we talk about Spot the Line, we are a tech company, and tech has gotten a very bad rap, especially in the dawn of social media, as far as a tool to foster and facilitate sexual harassment, online stalking, online bullying, grooming of children and teens. And at Spot the Line, we've realized that actually tech can do tremendous good. And by creating apps that are easy to use, non-intimidating, do not collect data, do not impinge upon anything. And then that we are able to take this same tool that so many people have, convoluted to hurt, to do tremendous good. And we have found that people, and there's multiple studies done on this, that people are far more likely to answer honestly to an app or a bot or a form online than they are to an actual person. And because we can guarantee this great confidentiality, and a person can use it as many times as they want, they can evaluate scores of different incidents. And when the app first launched, you talk to your friends about it, and friends of a certain generation will be like, well, sexual harassment is such a gray area, such a he said, she said. And I said, well, the reason why this app is so powerful is because it's not a gray area. There's a legal definition of sexual harassment. There's a legal definition of sexual assault. We are able to identify both through a very short series of questions to see if either of these things have happened. Plus, in the workplace, everyone should live in a place or work in a place where they feel safe. Therefore, it is not up to the person, who is the aggressor, so to speak, and it doesn't matter what their intent is. What matters is how the victim, survivor, is feeling in that particular situation. So someone could say, well, I didn't mean to hit you and kill you in the car. Well, that doesn't make the victim any less dead. And so we have to take that same view when it comes to sexual harassment. So if someone says, well, I didn't mean anything by it, it's like, well, that might have been your intent, but the effects on those that you harassed have been horrific, and that's a behavior that needs to change. And so we've been able to quantify this, put together an excellent algorithm and decision tree technology so that someone can instantly go through and ask these very simple questions for themselves in a particular situation, or someone they know in a situation, and determine if it fits the legal definition determined by the EEOC of sexual harassment, whether it's actually sexual assault, because we know that people do tend to minimize these kinds of crimes. Or if it's a situation where intervention is needed because it's creepy, and even if that isn't the person's and the aggressor's intent, if everyone else thinks it's creepy, or the person who's receiving it thinks it's creepy, as a behavior that needs to change. And it's so simple and easy to use. And you know,
Well, and I'm wondering too, I was just thinking, I was talking to someone recently, and they were recounting a story about someone in authority saying, well, boys will be boys. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is 2022. I could see this happening when I was a kid long, long ago. But to think that someone's saying that in 2022 is so egregious to me. I cannot believe it. But I mean, I'm also, I know it's just launched in April, but I was thinking too, when I was younger and I would have been in high school or college, and I would have seen this kind of behaviors, and I had this app, and I took I saw the algorithms and they're saying, yes, you're being sexually harassed. I would say, oh, I am going to go show this to my friend, because can we use this eventually then saying, I'm going to go, talk to the RA at my, on my campus and say, I just took this meter and this person is definitely sexually harassing me. It's almost like additional evidence. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as it gets more known. I don't know if you've thought about how it might be used in those ways.
It's certainly possible. Yes. I mean, anything that's going to help the person to take the next step forward. I mean, that's really what we're looking at. And we're also looking to prevent it from getting to the point of illegal sexual harassment. A lot of situations are brewing in a workplace where it's sort of like, someone's being a little bit creepy, they get away with it. So then they up the ante, right? Rarely does harassment just go away on its own. It almost always gets worse. So if you can realize early on, oh, you know what, this is really not appropriate behavior for the workplace, this needs to be dealt with, then it doesn't actually get worse and it doesn't go to that next level. And that's really my hope in the prevention aspect of it.
So
and,
go ahead.
And aggressors will always downplay their role in this. They will always say, oh, I didn't do it, or she misinterpreted, or this and that. But there's nothing like a third party thing saying, that was creepy, that's assault, that's this, that's that.
Well, and also even, the victims of harassment also tend to downplay, which is really why this app came to be, is because I've been teaching sexual harassment prevention trainings at companies and, corporations and law firms and wherever for a long, long time. And I would have people come up to me afterwards and say, oh, I don't know, here's my situation. Is that really, I didn't really want to say anything because, I should just suck it up, right? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't. Just because it's not the Harvey Weinstein situation,
Yes,
doesn't mean it's not a valid concern, that and that it's not okay and that you're not feeling safe. So this app will also help women, anybody, but particularly women, I think, to kind of recognize, oh, I was trying to act like this is not a big deal because this is my situation and I don't feel like I can leave. And really, it is a big deal, and I am being impacted by it. My mental health is being impacted by it in many instances, right? And so let's deal with it.
well, I think one of the things that I've seen too, and I don't know if either of you want to comment about it, is that sometimes, like, just even going back to that situation with those the interns that I was working with, is that there was such a fear about, well, if I tell someone, then they're going to think I'm just such a wimp, that I'm complaining about a senior resident, and I don't want to get that reputation. And I mean, it really took a lot of convincing. They did end up going to human resources, but I went with them. And I think they felt, because I was their ally, that it helped put an emphasis on the kind of behaviors that were happening. But, what if you work with a system and your boss is the one harassing you? What do you do in that case?
Well, if you look at, the reason that people are scared to come forward is because for time eternal, it was never a very positive experience. And so what this tool does, so if it's your boss harassing you, you have something to take to HR, you have something to take to a parallel boss, you have something to take to someone above them, or you have the right to say, I don't deserve to work in a situation like this, I quit. And this is what employers, I think, will really begin to understand and appreciate. If you have a workplace where these kind of behaviors, these behaviors of harassment, creepy or serious sexual harassment, where these behaviors are condoned, swept under the rug, facilitated, so on and so forth, that's going to affect your bottom line. Mm-hmm. People aren't going to want to work for you. Word is going to get around that it's a harassing workplace. So if employers they want to take care of their employees and they want to make sure that they increase the bottom line, it behooves them to make sure that these harassing behaviors don't take place, and that their employees have the power to not only stop harassment, but to address it before it gets any worse, and to have a full prevention tool in place. Because I mean, let's face it, if everyone in a workplace has this meter on their phone and I'm a sexual harasser, I think I'm going to stop, because it's like everyone's going to pull out their phone. I'm like, no, no. So it's a very effective prevention tool.
Well, and that's why we are coming up the version that's on the App Store right now, which anybody can download. That's for the individual to use, but we are going to have these corporate versions where a company can actually have their customized version and have a dashboard and get a sense of what's happening within their organization. And then what Joelle just talked about can happen.
Well, the fact that you just said that they can go online right now and download it from the App Store, what is it called again? So that if people are listening going, I want that on my phone right now, what's it called?
Sexual Harassment Meter.
That's pretty simple. Sexual Harassment Meter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's on both Android, it's at the Google Play Store, and also Apple.
And so then if someone's listening, they go, well, I want to talk to these two ladies because they're making a lot of sense to me. How would they find you through your webpage?
SpotTheLine.com.
That's easy too. Oh my goodness. Thank you that you made these things so easy for my brain to remember. All right. That's very good. So
we're doing something right. Something right.
So one of the things I want to ask you too, because I mean, the two of you, I've interviewed you before, but why did you guys decide to do this? And how did you get together to say, oh, we really have some good ideas here. So what about your lived experience brought you to this moment?
Well, for me, this is kind of like coming to this pinnacle of, I've been reaching people in courses, in trainings, and workshops, group by group. And that's not really making a difference in the culture of harassment and of course in rape culture that harassment lives in. And I believe that when this idea of an app was even brought to me, I was like, oh, this is a way we could reach many people in a very quick and easy way, and actually begin to make that real shift to say what's okay and what's not okay. How do we treat each other, and start to change that. So that was what was exciting to me. I knew nothing about apps and tech and all of that as far as building one, but we brought on the people who knew how to build it, and here we go. And that's just the first one. I want Joelle to tell you, I know, Elaine, you're going to be super excited about our second app that's coming out this year that Joelle is the lead on.
Well, I'm really excited about, because I'm thinking, if you build it, they will come.
That's right.
Of course, I've heard that from someplace. So that's just kind of floated in the air. So Joelle, over to you.
Well, I have been an advocate for other survivors of child sexual abuse and institutional cover-up for 20 some odd years now. And I realized about 5 or 6 years ago that we really lack the power of scale. The majority of my work has been done against cover-up in the Catholic Church. And I always joke around saying, the two worst things to happen to the Catholic Church are universal literacy and the internet when it comes to covering up child sexual abuse. Because what it did was it got people together and it got them talking. But what I wanted to do was hit more of the prevention side, because, I could talk to 1,000 survivors, or I could talk to 1,000 parents, and what's going to have the bigger effect? The 1,000 parents. And so I realized that to get the power scale I needed, I had to go into prevention and use technology, because I wrote a book about prevention, and no parent has the time to read a book. So if we can take it and turn it into an app that's super easy to use, especially for new parents who's like, I only have 2 minutes, so I can scroll through, that can be extraordinarily effective. And so the next app that that we're working on is the Child Safety Meter. And what this does is it assesses behaviors associated with predatory sexual grooming. And that's what a predator uses to trick a kid into thinking child sexual abuse is okay. And in my work with survivors, the number one thing, and even I myself, was just that if adults had just understood the telltale signs of grooming, all this abuse could have been prevented. And now we're going to put that power in people's pocket through a series of questions that are either child focused, meaning I'm noticing this in my child, and with this particular adult, or adult focused. I work with an adult who's doing these things that make me very uncomfortable.
Would it be something teachers could use?
Exactly.
Oh, yes. That's one of our prime targets. So
yes.
Parents,
youth serving organizations, parents, teachers, anyone who works with children will be able to use this. And it's based on, it's evidence-based as well as observational base on predatory sexual grooming and its effects. And then we can get ahead of this with the exact same kind of alert system and helpful empowerment tools and intervention tools. And, there are going to be questions that a parent, hits yes to, and boop, it instantly comes up to, you need to report this right now. Here's the link to report immediately.
Because even the reporting process, I mean, there's so many, because I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have made reports like this. And even for me, I'm very well trained, you'd go, well, is this reportable or not? And there would be that question. And what I would do, I would always call CPS and say, well, this is a situation. Can you tell me, I think it's reportable. They go, oh, it's reportable. Like, go ahead and give me the report. Right.
Right.
But there is that little doubt because we know there's consequences
Yes.
to what we're seeing. And we don't want to necessarily make a report
That's right.
that we, that we're going to be bringing a lot of focus on someone's life, right?
Well, and for parents, it's a little different because as non-licensed reporters, when they report, they can just report a suspicion. It's not their job to investigate. It's not their job to be professional about it. It's just their job to report. And that simple reports can change a life.
Well, and the other thing too, is that even in my position, I mean, we're not making that judgment. We're just saying there's a suspicion. And that's the thing, is that it's not about, we know for sure, but we're just having we see enough factors that are worrisome for us, but it's time for our break. Okay. And so look at that. We haven't even gotten to any of the questions we prepared yet. This happens to me every time I see the two of you. We start talking and we're going, oh my goodness, we're going to have to do another show. Well, we still have another halfway to go. So we will be back with Joelle and with Lauren in just a few minutes, and they will continue this lively conversation. And we have some really wonderful questions to ask them about the app and how you can utilize it. I mean, we're just getting started. So I am so excited to have you both here again, and we will be back in just a couple minutes. Welcome back. I'm with Joelle Casteix and with Lauren Roselle. We're talking about the organization they founded, SpotTheLine, and we are talking about a very exciting app that is free. And what's the name of that app again?
Sexual Harassment Meter. All
right. And they can go to the App Store, the Android or the Apple Store right now, and they can download it.
They can download it.
And it's super easy. I even have it here on my phone, simple questions to go through and answer. And you can get great results to help you prevent and stop unwanted sexual harassment or behavior.
Yeah. And I was also thinking it's probably really important just for everybody I'm going to go ahead and download it on my phone as well as soon as we're done today, because even if you're not being sexually harassed right now, I would think it would be good to have it. Because if you thought, oh my goodness, that was very strange or creepy, let me just get my little app out and I'm going to answer these questions, because I can then immediately find out if I have no one to talk to. Oh, well, my app is saying this is creepy and this is not okay. Right. So, I mean, because I can imagine there's a certain, I think I've seen this in others, even in myself sometimes, but you don't want to really talk to someone yet. You want to kind of check it out.
That's
and
right.
to actually have something in your hands that you could ask a question to that's interactive.
Right.
I think that's really powerful.
We do too.
And also a free insurance policy. You have it and it's going to, whether or not you need it, it's there. It's just a free insurance policy.
And it may not be you. It may be a friend who comes and says, this just happened to me. And you can be like, oh, you know what? Let's look and see where does that land? Let's see. And the other part of this, Elaine, which we haven't talked much about here, but I think that you would be very pleased with when you see the app, is that we have a whole section of empowerment tools, which is really to help people get through this difficult time and to be able to do some self-care and, reach out for support if they need it, and kind of just validating that, hey, this is rough and we know it. And
I didn't know about that. It's so exciting because I can just imagine you're going, oh my gosh, that person really is doing that to me. And then being so upset. And then is there like a little screen that you can push and then all of a sudden you got the empowerment tools?
Yeah, so you just have to click on it. There's action steps, which I talked about before, which is, what do I do next, or what are some options about what I could do next? And then there's the whole empowerment tools section. And I should probably have you review it for the next round when we're
Well,
putting
there you go.
updates.
I'd be happy to do that. So let me ask you another question though. I think that, I know that there are other reporting platforms, and what makes the sexual harassment meter different?
Mm. So we're not so much about the reporting, although I think for the customized version, some of the companies will add that option to be able to report. You're right. Most of them that are out there that have to do with sexual harassment are about reporting, which is great, because anything that can get people to report, anything that's going to get them to overcome that hump, that's a really difficult one to do, is important. So we're happy they're out there. Nobody has the app that we have in the sense of helping them to assess the situation in the first place. Like, what is really going on here? How bad is it? Is this something that I should think about reporting, or not?
And doing it in real time.
That's right.
That's important too. You can do it in real time.
Yeah, I would think that would make it, like, oh, I've got this thing that I can check in right now, because what just happened between me and that person was ugh. And so you could even go into the restroom and put the app
That's
on
right.
and have no one see you and be able to answer those questions. So I can see, but I guess the question that I have for you, because I living in a college town, having raised myself 2 teenagers, I think this is so important for schools to have, and for every college campus. I mean, it really seems like the whole date rape thing is so rampant right now.
Well, Elaine, now you're getting way ahead of us, because
Okay.
that's our third app, is the college safety app.
Oh gosh. I think
But-
I need to buy some stock in your business.
Well, that would, there is investment opportunities. If anybody out there is interested, we're definitely in that startup phase. So that's for
So
sure.
what's the college app going to be?
So that's really going to be an educational tool for college age students to be able to understand about consent, and, the role of alcohol, and, just really getting a handle on what is okay and what's not okay. And then also, just like this meter, being able to address something that's already happened. Okay, so I've had the situation, where does it land on the meter? But really, for me, and it's always been about prevention for me, anything we can do before the situation's happening, right? So if a college were to, purchase our app to provide to all their students, let's say you have to do it part of your orientation. You have to go through this app and you have to answer these questions, and it's, educational tool. And then junior year, somebody assaults someone who was drunk, and they get in trouble for it, right? Because that's illegal. And they can't say, oh, I didn't know that wasn't legal. I didn't understand, because, oh, actually 2 years ago, you actually went through an educational system here that showed you that's exactly what that is. So no, we know that, so there's no way to get out of it.
I just think it's so important for the people that are perpetrating the sexual harassment. It's like the education for them. I mean,
That's
is
right.
it something that we could diminish that the incidence of sexual harassment and assault if there was more education for a
Absolutely.
young person to say, if someone says, no, I don't want to do this, no means no. And if the
As opposed
person's
to-
intoxicated, that may be a time that you want to escort the person to their dorm room, and not to take them to your dorm room and sexually
Yes.
assault them when they're not able to give consent.
Right. I'm reminded of a quote, and I don't remember who it is. You might know, Elaine. For men, no is a complete sentence, and for women, it's the beginning of a negotiation.
Yes. I do not remember. I've heard it before, but that's exactly
Yes,
right.
but I mean, that is really, it does come with education. I mean, I just found out recently at a middle school in a very nice community, an 8th grade boy went up to a girl and said, I'm going to rape you.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, does he understand what he's saying there, what he's implying? She certainly was afraid and startled. And, I mean, how can that be happening? Right? Because of education. We're not talking about these issues. And then I think the pandemic has really impacted young people.
Yeah.
in their immaturity level because they haven't had as much socialization, and yet their hormones are they're still kicking in at the same time, and so they don't know how to interact with each other. So it's super important. So yes, we're going to be definitely offering something
Well,
for
and I
middle
think
school and high
because
school.
the generations of children right now that and young adults, they've grown up with social media. I didn't grow up with social media. I don't think probably either of you did either. And so yet it's so influential. And
Right.
that
I
if
mean,
we don't use these kinds of platforms, I think then we're not going to reach as many people, because people don't necessarily, like you said, read a book, but they go online and say, okay, I think I'm being sexually harassed, but how do I find that maybe I'm not? So
right.
hopefully, the meter will pop up and people can give themselves that evaluation.
Well, and let's look at how the teenage brain and the young adult brain and even the child brain works. Do any of them like to be lectured by an adult about what's right and wrong? No, they want to figure it out on their own. And the apps, especially sexual harassment meter, even for younger kids, is a great way to realize, have someone who's not mother doing this or teacher doing this saying, oh my God, no one told me that was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing with a lot of people who are engaging in sexual harassment. When nobody tells you it's wrong, you're just going to assume it's right. And
Well,
so,
and we've had some very powerful political figures and other figures kind of demonstrate to us that they didn't think it was wrong, sadly. And so we hate to get to the point where the person ends up going to prison for what they've done. If we could do it, wind it back and say, no, it doesn't matter if it's Bill Cosby. It doesn't matter if it's Harvey Weinstein. It doesn't matter who they may be in terms of their power.
That's right.
Harassment and assault is not something that is to be tolerated.
and what an app does, and it touches on what you just said, is it evens the playing field. It evens the playing field for the survivors and victims. They come in from an exactly equal place with the exact same opportunities, and it equals a playing field for the aggressors. So someone like a Harvey Weinstein or a Bill Cosby is held to the same standard as the dude who lives at the end of my condo complex. So it really evens a playing field and dramatically increases accessibility.
And even in these last few years with everyone Zooming for work and doing virtual working from home, everyone thought, I knew this was not going to be the case, but lots of people were like, oh, sexual harassment's going to not be a problem for a while now because we're not in the same space. No, that's actually not true. I mean, it of course it's happening on Zoom, and it's happening just how it happens on social media. So even if you're not in a workplace with other people, or even if you're not, let's say you're not in a workplace situation right now, should you download the app? Yes, you should. Absolutely, because it's not just about the legal sexual harassment in the workplace that we want you to be able to address and identify and be able to work through.
Well, and that's another question that I have for you, because I think that people are also very leery. If I have my app, this just happened to me because we have an app that we created called iChill, and someone just asked me for the very first time, well, do you collect my data? And what are you going to do with this information if you do? Well, we don't collect their data. So this is my question. What about data and your app? And I think, Joelle, you wanted to address that.
Well, our primary goal is accessibility, and we do not sacrifice privacy for accessibility. So when you look at social media or whatever, it's all accessible and free, but you pay. You are the product because you're paying with your data. We do not collect data. We have some opt-in demographic data that people can opt in and say, I'm this age and so on and so forth. But for the individual user right now, we are not collecting data. Now, as we go on and we have, it's called a white label. So if a corporation says, oh, I want to have this meter, we can ensure privacy, but provide that opt-in for reporting, because what we want is not only to encourage people to use the app for a particular situation for them, but we want them to use it over and over and over and over again for their kid, for their husband, for something that they saw that they're just a third party to. And the more they use it, the more they will learn. And you don't want to collect that kind of data because it's
No.
junk data. And so again, our privacy and confidentiality are ultimately important. And
Yeah, 'cause I think the question that came to me was like, do we save their email and then send it to some third party for
Oh, yeah.
advertisement?
So,
I
right.
mean,
Oh,
that was not something that you would
right.
do.
we
I
don't even
think.
collect emails.
W-
So
Yes.
what we are collecting when we're asking for that demographic data, we are saving that data, but it's not connected to any one person, right? We
It's
couldn't,
like wanting to find, I think we did that too, like who's coming,
Right.
who's this being,
Because we
and
wanna
more or
show-
less you want to make it your app better. It's not to do anything that would be putting them in danger, in exposing their confidentiality
That's
and their
right.
privacy.
That's
and
right.
it's opt-in. So it does not affect your ability to use the meter.
Well,
Like,
I'm glad
for
we're
instance,
talking about that because I think these are obviously important issues regarding social media right now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I
Lauren.
just was going to add that, when we get some of that data, like we might find out the percentage of men who are using this, because it's not just for women, right? So if we're seeing, we have a lot of male users who are in that victimized position, that's going to be good to educate the public and educate people who are doing trainings and who are addressing this issue on lots of different levels. If we can give them data on a really large scale of, look how many people are having this experience, that's the kind of thing we want to be
Well,
doing.
I guess that this is kind of, we didn't talk about this question. It just came to my mind.
Okay.
But would someone who is a perpetrator, could they use your app to find out how far they could go? I know. I mean, I have to ask that question. I'm so sorry. I mean,
No,
Joelle's looking a little quizzical right now, going, "No one's asking
well,
that
first
one."
of all,
It won't draw them a roadmap, but it will tell them if what stuff they have done has broken the law. But they're not gonna be able to, because the questions are randomized at a certain point, and then some do branch off of others. So it's not like someone's gonna say, okay, so I can go right to here, and then it's harassment or assault.
right. Well, and also what I thought you were going to ask, Elaine, is could someone use this to decide whether they had accidentally harassed someone?
Yes. Well,
Right.
that would be the other question.
And
It's a lot kinder than the question that
yes,
I
well,
asked.
I'm going to answer them both. I'll answer
Okay.
them both in my perspective. So the answer is yes, they could, but of course some of it's subjective to the person who was on the receiving end, so they couldn't really answer for them. So they wouldn't have it wouldn't be completely accurate, but it would give them a sense of it. And there are a lot of people that I've talked to, a lot of men who've said, I really want to be a good guy and I don't think I'm a harasser, but I don't know. Should I, if I'm having someone in my office for a meeting, if I'm having a woman, should I keep the door open? Like, is that something I should do? I mean, they're asking these really valid questions, which means that the chances of them actually being a problematic harasser are very, very low, right? Because they actually have the awareness of it. The other question that you're asking is, could they use it, for evil? I agree with Joelle. I don't think that there's a real, and even if it wasn't about legal versus illegal, our app is about helping to identify things before they get to the most egregious level.
Right.
So
And
he would be
yes.
called out, that person who's testing it out, he would be probably called out for that behavior before it did cross a line.
Well, and that kind of gets to my next question, is that sexual harassment can be a gray area. So how do you account for this? How does the app determine what is harassment and what isn't harassment?
Well, we're going by the EEOC guidelines for legal
Now, what's
sexual harassment.
EEOC? If you can, tell us what that is, because not everybody will know what that means.
It's the
Equal
Wait.
Opportunity Employment Commission. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. EEOC.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
there you
there's
go.
a commission, so that we know
Yes.
what that
Yes.
is. So it's like a bona fide kind of
Yes.
governmental.
They are a
agency.
regulatory agency that creates laws that deal with safety in the workplace in accordance with the ADA and other civil rights laws. So they're also the people who make sure that you're ADA compliant and that you aren't hiring children and that you are following all the laws necessary in the United States to have a safe workplace. And they do create and enact laws and regulations as a regulatory agency does, kind of like the EPA does, the Environmental Protection Agency.
So it's federal.
It is federal.
And to go back to a question you asked in the first half hour, if your harasser was your boss and there was no HR department to go to and no one above that person, you could make a report to the EEOC.
And does it take like 10 years for them to respond?
No.
Or do they do it quickly?
Well, they have to agree to take on the case, right? They have to say, yes, this is actually. problematic.
Well, so
but-
that's a question I have for you. Is this something that you have like talked to them to say this is what we have, so that they could use the meter in terms of the determination of whether something is harassment or not? Or is that something that you hope will unfold in time?
You mean to the EEOC?
Yes.
Well, they don't need it because they know, right? They're aware of where that line is. It's just the average person doesn't know. But certainly I would want them to be aware of our tool and hopefully be able to.
Well, I've got a lot of marketing ideas for you too.
Well, and the last thing you want to do is have the government make an app. Like, okay, that's not
Oh,
gonna
no,
be a
yes.
very successful one. But yeah, because there's a lot of opportunities there for strategic partnerships with various agencies and things like that. And depending on if we decide to branch into a nonprofit arm as well, there's grants and all kinds of things. But even on the for-profit side, because we're a women-owned business, because we are a mission-driven organization, there are tons and tons of partnership opportunities there that can help guarantee equity and safety for everyone.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I know that you've been associated, Lauren, with Peace Over Violence. So have I. I mean, organizations, Peace Over Violence is a very large organization within Los Angeles County. I mean, do you see that there's going to be intersections between you and organizations like
quite
that?
possible. I gave the app in its beta form to the executive director there, Patty Giggins, and
we've interviewed her on this show, actually.
Okay,
Patty's
yes.
been interviewed.
Anyway, so she's excited about it, and definitely we're kind of moving into that phase of, okay, how are we going to start to really partner, like Joelle's saying, with different people to get this out there, because it's not going to be helpful if people don't know it. They don't know it exists, right? We have to get it on people's phones, and the crazy stuff that people put on their phones, my gosh, you have room for one more app when it's something that could really make a difference.
Well, and this is something I wanted to ask you too as well, because when we talked the first go around, I didn't think that the app was going to be free, and now I see that it's free. I'm delighted to see that. So can you talk a little?
We wanted to make it as accessible as possible. I mean, you shouldn't have to pay to figure out what's happening in your life as far as harassment goes. But we also are a business that wants to, build more apps and reach more people. So what we did was we have a pay on the back end if you felt like it was useful to you, and it gives options for you to click on what you thought it was worth for you. So we've had people
nice.
donate $1. We've had people donate $25. I mean, it's not donate. It's not a tax deductible donation, but it is. They're
contributing to what you're doing.
That's right.
That's a very nice. I think
Joelle has a great way. Joelle has a great way of saying it.
Well, it's the pay what you want model, and a lot of organizations, especially those that are mission driven, are using that. So like Truebill, if you want to figure out if you're paying too much, they have a pay what you want model. A lot of people who provide courses on the internet, pay as you go model, because, or not pay as you go, I'm sorry, pay what you want model, because, we want the people who need it the most to get it. And those who are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I would pay 5 times as much as this. And so I will. And we find that people always tend to be a little more generous, and it allows people to show that they really believe our app and our mission has value.
Well, I love that you did that people can choose. And that no one is turned away because they can't pay to figure out whether they're being harassed or not. It's because I think the other thing as a therapist for so many years is that it can lead to such a soul loss when people have been sexually assaulted. And I don't think sometimes people realize how it really can impact every part of our mind, body, and spirit. So to think that it could be preventative is to me, I'm so impressed with the two of you and appreciate both of you so much. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to give each of you like one little sentence to say in closing right now. What would you like to say to our listeners?
It's in all of our hands to make our homes and workplaces safer. And if the sexual harassment meter can be one part of that, then we certainly hope that everyone will take advantage of it.
Thank you, Joelle. And how about for you, Lauren?
Well, just piggybacking on that, I just would ask everybody to download the app. Right now, we're in that first month or two, and it really makes a difference if we can get the numbers built up with people downloading it and checking it out and giving us feedback. We welcome feedback because we want to make it better and better. So not only could you as a listener download it, but tell one of your coworkers and have them do
Okay,
it
so
too.
one more time, what's the name of the app?
Sexual Harassment Meter, found on the App Store or Google Play.
And your webpage if they want to contact you.
SpotTheLine.com.
All right. Well, thank you, Joelle and Lauren. We have to get together again for lunch because we don't live far from each other, because it's just
Let's do
lovely
it.
to talk with you. And I think it's admirable that you are doing this. And I know that it's also come out of some personal suffering on your parts as well in the work that you've done in the world. So I think this is another, message that we always leave our listeners is, even though something really difficult may have happened to you, or you've witnessed it in the stories of others, that there's something else that could be true. What else is true about how you can change the world? And the two of you are doing that. So out of suffering can come great meaning and purpose. And I think you two are examples of that for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elaine. Coming
Thank
from you,
you.
that means a great deal, because
Well, and you
are
know,
quite
I
amazing.
feel that from the bottom of my heart about both of you.
Yeah.
So until we meet again, listeners, we will be back next Monday. And again, we will share some very resilient stories from some amazing people trying to change the world. So this is Elaine Miller-Karras signing off for Resiliency Within today.